Vivek Ramaswamy in this video ends the media 3 times in a row on 3 different subjects, catches them in lies. On a side note, everyone's celebrating because Chris Christie's dropping out of the race. You heard it here first. Thank you guys for watching. This is Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Let's get to Vivek Ramaswamy.
Just by show of hands, who here is willing to admit that the Trump-Russia collusion hoax was indeed incorrectly reported by the mainstream media? Is there anybody here able to admit that that was incorrect reporting?
It wouldn't be really appropriate for us to answer a question like that.
Why not? Why would that be inappropriate? I think it would be inappropriate. What's inappropriate is lying to the public.
We're doing our job asking you.
Was the public lied to, or did the media report on this set of facts that were provided?
He just got these journalists, not one hand would go up and say Russia collusion hoax was false. This, by the way, is how Nazis get away with it. This journalist, he said the same thing that the Nazi general said. He goes, we're just following orders. We're just asking questions. We're just doing our job. Their job is not to lie to you and me. And they made up material where they had 0 facts. This is a cult. These people act like a cult.
I actually think that the public was lied to long after the media systematically still understood that this was the product of the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was a piece of Russian disinformation provided by the Hillary Clinton campaign that was served up to the federal government as a basis for issuing a FISA warrant to then potentially infiltrate a member of the opposition party. If this was Bush and Cheney doing it to John Kerry, this would have been the stuff of scandal, impeachment, and worse. And yet, I think it was an intentional lie that the media said that account, which we now know to be true, was actually the Russian disinformation.
He asked them on a whole completely different subject if they're willing to admit they're wrong.
Let me give an easier one. Just by show of hands, does anybody believe the media's reporting about the origin of COVID-19 ran flatly in face of the facts that you have a Wuhan Institute of Virology that was now the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? You all said that it wasn't for a long time. By show of hands, was the Wuhan lab the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? Everybody, media or not.
Just so you know, the only people who put their hands up were Vivek's friends. So no one in the left-wing media, no Democrat raised their hand on the Wuhan lab. That flies in the face of where science is at today. The problem's going to persist. He's going to continue.
So you have reported, the same media that has reported that the COVID-19 pandemic did not originate in a lab in Wuhan is willing to even say, unwilling to admit today.
The report came out in 2023, so I guess
it was known that there was a Wuhan Institute of Virology where they were conducting gain-of-function research, the very city which was the origin of a global pandemic. And yet the media's explanation was that somehow it could have been any source other than actually having started in a lab. I just think that that's systematic.
It is systematic. They're lying. If not to you, they're lying to themselves. Like they want to believe falsehoods. It's still going on today, guys. He's going to get there where the media is today. They're doing the same thing and they're setting it up again. They're going to tell you bold-faced lies that probably even they believe.
Systematically unacceptable. The Hunter Biden laptop. Is the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, which was shut down, had the Twitter account locked for anybody who is even sharing the story of the Hunter Biden laptop found on the eve of the last election? The media reported that it was Russian disinformation on the eve of that election. Does anyone here agree that the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, was indeed accurately reported and was not Russian disinformation, but was in fact a factually owned laptop of Hunter Biden? I mean, you got to, man. I mean, your paper reported it.
Yeah, one guy had to from the Post because the Post reported that indeed Hunter Biden's laptop was not Russian disinformation. By the way, I have a lefty cousin who still says, yeah, Russians invented a fake laptop to frame Hunter Biden, that guy's actually innocent. This is how crazy people think. Not just crazy, but they're so deluded. They hate Trump so much that they will lie to themselves and they will tell them anything.
Does everybody else seriously not believe that?
I mean, I believe that Hunter Biden is suing Rudy Giuliani over the laptop, so I don't think that's...
So you don't believe, so you think that it actually was the product of Russian disinformation, as was reported by the media? That was the basis for suppressing this at the time?
Over the Hunter Biden case,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we're talking about that.
Because it was election interference on the eve of the last election. And I think there's the same kind of election interference happening this time around. And I think it's happening, the early waves of it, with respect to the treatment of my candidacy. And I think that that is likely to be a major problem heading into the next year, unless we're able to openly and transparently acknowledge the mistakes of the past.
Well, I hate to say it, but these are pagan media members. They're not going to repent and they're not going to change without Jesus. He's asking them to go look inside and admit what you did. They're not going to admit what they did. You don't know who you're dealing with, buddy. And they're going to do the same thing this year. Those level of lies, literally, they'll be anti-science, anti-reality, and anti-common sense, jamming it down everyone's throats across the most powerful arms and legs of media, big tech and journalism, against Trump and these other candidates. So I'm just prepping you guys for what's coming. Vivek did a great job of smashing the. I, of course, don't support Vivek for president. I want Trump. I really like him as a speaker. I think he's really smart. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What big giant whopper is the media going to jam down everyone's throats this November? Give me your ideas. I'm Doug in Exile.